Hey guys, so this is my first video. I've really been contemplating on this a lot about making this. I'm gonna be talking about my miscarriage and my pregnancy since I have been getting a lot of questions on it. Pretty much it's like the whole process of my story, how it happened, how I got through it, and all of that. Okay, so my first pregnancy, this was back in February 2017. I found out that I was pregnant on New Year's. I was about 5 weeks, and we went to the doctor, got our first ultrasound, and with that, they said they saw the yolk, everything, the sac was fine. And of course, it was too early to hear a heartbeat. So we waited about like 2 or 3 weeks or so till I was about 8 weeks. We went to another ultrasound and they had told us that there was no heartbeat. Unfortunately, there was actually 4 sacs that they found. One of them ended up vanishing on its own. Another one was just a water sac, and the other 2 actually had twins. So we were pregnant with twins. Unfortunately, the day after, I started spotting. It started becoming really painful. It did lead into a miscarriage. So eventually we went back to the doctor. She had told us that it wasn't a viable pregnancy. And because it was so many sacs, she didn't think that I was going to lose it on my own. But eventually I did. I started bleeding little by little, and eventually it started ending up in big clots. She said if the blood started getting worse, to go to the emergency room, so we did. That all happened on Thursday when we went to the doctor. I started spotting Friday morning, and Sunday night was when we went to the emergency room. And this was around 9 p.m. when I started getting like really heavy and bad clots. So we ended up going to the emergency room. They took me in, and because I wasn't dilating for it to all come out, they did an ultrasound to make sure how many sacs I still had in there. So all 3 were pretty much like crumbling together, which was really painful. And I ended up getting this pill inserted in my vagina to help my cervix dilate, so which was it helps kind of open everything, so it's a lot easier to come out. It's not painful at all when they insert it or anything, like you can barely feel it. But it is super painful. Like you feel contractions, you feel nauseous, you feel all this kind of pain. I did get some type of pain medication, which did help a lot. It did kind of put me to sleep for a good while. It took a few hours for the pill to actually take effect. It happened around 5 in the morning when I actually released everything, and it came out like in a big blob, which was really gross and painful because the pain medication started wearing off. But that was pretty much the whole hospital experience. After that, I did continue bleeding for, I believe, about a week or so. But that's pretty much about it. I ended up leaving the hospital like at 6 in the morning, so it does take quite a while. You get blood drawn, you have ultrasounds, all this kind of stuff, so it is a crazy experience. But then again, like everybody's different depending on how far along you are. Some people just lose them all on their own at home. But yeah, it's really scary. It's not something a lot of people talk about, but just make sure that you have somebody there with you if it does happen, because you do not want to be alone. You do still continue to get some type of contractions afterwards, but they're like mild cramps or stuff like that. But But because of the whole bleeding and everything, they do recommend that you wait at least 3 months to try again, just because you don't always get your period the same cycle because of the whole bleeding. Some people bleed more than a week, 2 weeks, even up to 3 weeks. So yeah, they do recommend that you wait. A lot of people think that it's something that they have that's causing them, you know, like to lose the baby, or something that's his problem or something like that. But honestly, it's not something that we have inside of us, or either anything related to our bodies. It's just when the sperm, the egg, they don't connect correctly and whatnot. Like, it's really common to have a miscarriage, so don't be scared if it happens. You know, like, eventually it's something that you get through, but it is something that not a lot of people talk about. But even after so after my miscarriage, it did take about 8 months to finally get pregnant again. I found out I was about 4 weeks. Okay, so like I was saying, when I found out I was pregnant, I was about 4 weeks. And because of the miscarriage past, they did require I get a lot of ultrasounds done right away, to make sure it was a viable pregnancy. So I went when I was 5 weeks to my OB. They did an ultrasound there, and they did find a sac, the baby, and from there they sent me over to Simon Med to check for viable pregnancy. But because it was still too early, I had to go back again when I was about 8 weeks, and to confirm and everything, it was a viable pregnancy. They found a heartbeat. From there, I went to another place called Valley Radiology, and they did another ultrasound there to confirm like how the baby was, everything like that, and so forth. From there, I did start having the every month appointment. So every month until I was about 5 months, they did the astronomy ultrasound for the bones, the organs, all the measurements for the baby, making sure her organs and everything were good. And she was a healthy little girl. When I was about 10 weeks, I did the DNA test. That's when they check for like all the chromosomes to make sure she's good. They also check for like Down syndrome. They ended up doing her gender. They do it through their DNA, so they were able to see that she was a girl. I found out about 2 weeks later. They gave us a call from all the blood work, and we had a gender reveal about 13 weeks, which that was exciting. When I was about 7 months, that's when the every 2-week appointment started, just to check how the baby was doing. They measure your stomach, how much it's grown. And then when I was at 36 weeks, that's when we started going in every single week. I ended up going past my due date. She did not want to come out. I was 40 weeks and 5 days when I got induced. And I ended up getting Pitocin, which is a medication they give you to provoke your contractions, because I didn't get any contractions at all. So that was really painful. The contractions were really, really bad, because if your body is not prepared for it, it will hurt. They were really, really painful. Like, I would say out of 1 to 10, it was a 10. When I got induced, I was supposed to go to a different hospital, but because my doctor did deliver at 2 different hospitals, one of them had a really, really long wait. Like, it was gonna take 3 or 4 days to get an appointment in there. So I did end up going to a different one, which was a Brazo. I went in about 3 in the morning, and I started getting my medication. not until 6 in the morning, so I didn't get a room until about 5. And then I got my water broke at 9 in the morning, and I did dilate pretty fast. It wasn't that bad. It didn't hurt at all when I got my water break in. So I was dilating pretty quick. I got to 8 centimeters when they said I needed to go into emergency C-section because the baby's tones were dropping, so they couldn't really hear her heartbeat or anything. They thought maybe she was tangling herself with the umbilical cord. So they rushed me. I ended up getting the epidural first, and then they rushed me to get the C-section. And then my baby was born, super healthy, cute little white girl. I forgot to mention, so the morning sickness, I honestly didn't have it bad. I think it was only about just 1 week when I had morning sickness, and that's because I came down with the cold. So that really caused like all the nauseous, vomiting and stuff like that. But after that, I was perfectly fine. Up until I was 6 months, I did start feeling a little bit more nauseous. But that's like towards foods and stuff like that. But I didn't have any vomiting or anything like that. So morning sickness, honestly, it was very mild. I hardly even had it. But yeah, now my daughter is 18 months. I did get on birth control right away, so you do have an appointment, I believe, at 6 weeks after birth. I ended up starting up on the pills, which I do not recommend. I gained 20 pounds just for the off the birth control. So it's been really hard to lose that weight. The scar isn't so bad, you could hardly see it now. But I did get staples like right after birth. I had about 20 staples, which was really, really bad for the recovery part. So a month before my daughter turned 1, I ended up switching to the IUD, which was a lot better. I recommend that a lot better. I got the 3-year, which is a Skyla. So up until now, I don't have any issues with it. I didn't get any side effects. I still get my period every single month. And I've already had it for about 6-7 months. Which I do recommend it a lot. Anyways, I just want to say thank you guys for listening, for watching. And I really hope this encouraged you guys to talk about what you're going through and to not be afraid, and encourage you as in to talk about your story. Hopefully it helps with tips and everything. If you guys need any mommy tips or anything, just comment. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'll be more than happy to answer that for you. But yeah,